Jen Brumfield, it is a pleasure to have you here. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing well, David. It is just you just keep, I could just sit here and smile at you for an hour. We could just have a smile off. I mean, I just grin ear to ear. So it is just an honor to be here. It's wonderful.
Well, I must say the feeling is mutual. Before we actually start, I must say thanks to our sponsors, Leica Nature and Birding and King's Place Music Foundation, who, as part of their Nature Unwrapped season, which is actually to the end of the year, they're sponsoring this as well. So thank you for those guys. And also, I'm leading a walk for King's Place on October the 3rd, I think it is. That's it. It's on in the chat. Tickets from King's Place website, September the 3rd, a walk with the birder, and that's in London. So that's happening in October, God willing. So let's start by firstly introducing Jen, because some of you may not know who Jen is. I mean, I know there's a few people from America here. I'm sure I know there's a few people from Cleveland even, so I'm sure they know you very well.
Right.
I mean, we'll talk about what you do actually during the course of the actual hour, but you live in Cleveland, you are a massive urban birder, you're a local patch watcher, you are a birder per se. You run boat trips into Lake Erie to look for rarities, as well as taking people out to show them birds generally. You're a massive veteran of big days, big years. So we can talk about that, including the World Series of Birding and all that sort of stuff. But you're also massively into outreach, reaching out to people in the community to get them engaged with nature. So that's really beautiful, and we'll talk about that too. But I think we're going to, I suppose, take the route from the very beginning. I'd like to know, Jen, how did you actually come to pick up a pair of binoculars in the first place?
Great question. As long as I can remember, I've been looking at birds. And so I like to say that I've been birding since I was in utero. That it's just been hand in hand. It's been something that from the moment my earliest memories are looking at birds. When in reality, what actually happened was my parents, who are just remarkable human beings, set up bird feeders outside of my window. And some of my first books were bird books. And something about birds just captivated me to the most manic, but peaceful, but just wholly absorbed level. And I remember being so young and peering out of the window, just staring at the black-capped chickadees and the song sparrows and even the red-winged blackbirds and the grackles. In fact, one of my first bird names I could actually pronounce was grackle, except I said crackle. And it just went from there, from just staring out of the window. First pair of binoculars were Swifts, and my dad and I would go out on the grandest birding adventures. When all the other kids were going for sleepovers on Friday and Saturday nights, Dad and I were plotting, when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, what next rare bird we were going to chase, or how we were going to go up to Canada and see all the owls and everything. And it took us all over Ohio, chasing rarities and going to see warblers every spring. And but as early as I can remember, just enamored with birds. I just can't stop looking at them, David.
A lot of my American friends always ask the question, what was your spark bird? For those who aren't American, what was the first bird you ever remember seeing? What was a bird that kind of tipped you over the edge? What was your bird? Was there one?
I have no spark bird. I have no, because I started so young. I have no spark bird. The thing that I can try to explain, though, is that I had a spark book, and that was the Golden Guide to the Birds in North America. And I would flip through the Golden Guide to the Birds in North America, Every single one of those birds was a spark bird for me, page after page. Before I could read, just images, just looking at the pictures of the birds. Couldn't even pronounce the names, couldn't even say some of the names of the birds yet. I was that young, but I would flip through that book and just stare at the colors and the shapes and the diversity. So I have no individual spark species. I have a spark book, and all birds were just captivating to me.
Where were you raised in Ohio?
Akron, Ohio, which is just a little bit south of Cleveland, where my parents still live.
Okay, because I mean, I've been to Cleveland, and it's made a massive mark on me. A few people in the audience are part of the reason. I mean, you're a massive reason, but the others are part of the reason too. I've never been to Ohio before. I remember landing in Chicago, O'Hare. Is it O'Hare?
Mm-hmm.
And then flying to Pittsburgh, another place I've never been to, and then driving in the dark and through kind of blizzards and stuff to this unknown destination further north. And it was, you know, I arrived in Cleveland under the cover of darkness. It's about, 1 or 2 in the morning. And I went to this accommodation. I stayed on my own, and I didn't see anyone till the following morning. So it's really kind of a weird way to kind of enter into this new world. But what I loved about Cleveland being there was the fact that I felt immediately part of a family. It was really overwhelming, actually, to be welcomed by so many different people and to feel as if I can come back at any point, which is absolutely amazing. So I'd like to thank everyone who was there and who helped in that particular trip I did to organise it and stuff. I'd like to thank them all, including myself. But obviously, since then, a lot of things have happened in the world. We are now currently in a pandemic, of course, and things are particularly bad over where you are in the States. So how have you been coping? What's it been like living under those conditions at the moment?
Well, David, I will refrain from discussing political commentary because we could talk for the next 2 days about how I really feel. You know that phrase, tell them how you really feel? Politics aside, because I have a lot of extreme comments that I would like to share. There's been nothing short of a triple, quadruple, double whammy here in America between the virus, between a racial reckoning, and a complete upheaval in our government. And so, among many other things. And so we are witnessing, for many, many, many reasons, a completely unprecedented time here. And for folks who are very aware and very deep feeling like you and I, and probably the folks that are watching this, it has been stunningly difficult to navigate ways to safely enjoy and find joy in our day-to-day activities, in our hobbies, in birding. It has been difficult to navigate working environments. It's been difficult to navigate information streaming in, making choices of the wisest, the healthiest, the smartest choices to make, not just as a U.S. citizen, but as a human being. And it also has been difficult to navigate this immense reckoning of human rights, in that it is so clear, so very clear, that the time has absolutely come for us to take a stand as individuals, even if that means losing some of the people that were previously connected in our lives. And so navigating everything from the virus and government orders, recommendations, the day-to-day shopping, shopping needs has been itself an incredible weight daily in order to make the healthiest and safest choices. I myself have adopted 2 children. And so raising those 2 children with my partner has added multiple extra layers of challenges. And now we're taking a look at the upcoming school year, looking at the semester to decide how to protect our family and protect our friends and those around us.
In England, one of the byproducts of this pandemic has been the apparent reconnection, or even connection for the first time, of people to nature. People have been noticing nature. What has it been like in Cleveland, for example? Have you had that same kind of situation, or have all the other things that you just mentioned, have they been the sort of overpowering sort of influence?
Extremely similar to what you just described. In my daily work duties, I am actually outdoors for a fair amount of time, and watching the sheer number of people come into the Cleveland Metro park system on a day-to-day basis has been nothing short of remarkable. And over the years that I've worked at the location that I'm going to almost daily, you recognize faces, you recognize families, and there are thousands of new visitors coming out, finding peace, finding connection, finding some sort of semblance, some sort of control of their surroundings, of their peace of mind outdoors. I've even noticed through social media, more people getting connected to birding, more people getting onto the butterfly pages, more folks asking questions. What is this? I just saw this. I've never spent so much time in my backyard before, and I just noticed that there's these types of birds coming in. So absolutely, with the collapse of overall of the day-to-day going on, folks are hitting this wall essentially, and forced to really observe the world around them in a much different pace. Even if they are working and raising children and staying busy, there is definitely a new element of not only self-awareness, but awareness for the world around us. It is forcing people to slow down a bit and to really observe and be aware, which is a phenomenal thing.
You work for the Metro Parks system in Cleveland. Can you explain what that is? What your job is basically?
I sure can. Yeah, so it's been just over 15 years now. I don't know how in the world that happened.
Jen, you don't look old enough. You look still like a little kid to me.
Good. It's because birds keep me young, David. Rarities, education, love for humanity keeps you young. It also wears on you on the inside, though. So in my heart, I'm an old soul. But on the outside, thank you, David. I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm getting close to 40 over here.
Get out of here.
But, oh, yeah.
You're looking good.
You're looking good. Everybody's looking, yeah. But, excuse me. So Cleveland Metro Parks is one of the nation's greatest park systems. And it surrounds the greater Cleveland area in the shape of a necklace. And so within 10 to 15 minutes of anywhere that that's right, Shailesh, we are all looking good. Anywhere that you're at within the Cleveland area, within 10 to 15 minutes, you can easily access one of the Cleveland Metro Parks reservations, be it bike and hike trails, walking trails, mountain bike trails, birding areas. And we have multiple nature centers, which is rare. It's almost unheard of to have multiple nature centers surrounding the city. And each year, now things have changed this year, but each year we reach thousands and thousands of students and the general public. So family programs, students come out, naturalists, we lead the kids on hikes, summer camps, outdoor recreation activities, just phenomenal. And so for 15 years, we have been leading the people of Cleveland into the field to learn not just about the plant, animal, living world life around them, but also to help connect them and make them feel part of this remarkable world that surrounds them.
I've known you for about 9 years. I remember when I first met you in Texas, and it was in a house party, I think.
It was.
Yeah, and I think most people were quite drunk. I wasn't. I think
I wasn't either. I just remember staring at you then too. We get together, we just stare and smile at each other. It's so great.
But I know that you've had a tough life, and I think, well, can I ask you, have birds really helped you through your life?
I have had one hell of a life, David Lindo. And I am very, 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 very thankful for everything, every single thing that I have, and for my multiple opportunities to get through some pretty treacherous things and still be here to be smiling at your face. Birds, by far, have significantly helped me through so many levels of emotional and physical pain, healing, and reigniting and fulfillment and peace. You know, not just running around finding rare birds, but quite literally, you know, the act of going outside and just observing or just listening, even if you're too tired to look around, listening is so incredibly healing for our bodies. This is so well documented through so many textbooks and journal articles, our connection with nature. But what's so fascinating is to hear everybody's individual stories as to the things that they've gone through and how much birds or spending time out in the natural world has helped them. And there are many people that I know who have been through immense struggles as well. And one of the normalcies, one of the ways to find healing and connection is through the natural world. And yes, very much so, specifically through birds and birding.
Not many people may know that you are also an accomplished artist. I don't know if you Zoomers have seen Jen's stuff, but it's absolutely fantastic. When did you realize that you could actually, you know, paint and draw?
Yeah, actually, I don't even paint. It's colored pencil.
Wow.
And yeah, folks are thinking, I've got a lot of pictures, you know, photos, but also illustrations on my Facebook page. So if folks are interested in dabbling through and taking a look at some of those things, by all means, have at it. Again, just like my utter fascination with birds, I can't really remember the first time that I started to illustrate. It's something that I've always been able to do. and I worked hard. I think I would like to take a second and talk about working hard. Um, I know a lot of people who've worked very, very, very hard, but I also know a lot of people who have worked harder than the people that have worked very, very, very hard. And I've worked very, very, very hard in my life, with my hands and with my heart. And one thing that I have been continuously blown away by is that a lot of these interests and talents have come very naturally to me. But that is also because of the sheer amount of practice and work and passion that I put into it. And so when you say, when did you start? Did you go to, I did not go to school for illustration. It was just a sheer amount of time that I invested in practicing and observing birds. And there's absolutely no doubt that, you know, a sheer love for birds when you're an artist does come through into those illustrations and paintings that you make.
Well, Shailesh has been asking, where can you see your work? Obviously, you just mentioned Facebook. So Shailesh, if you go on to Jen Brumfield's Facebook, I'm sure she'll welcome you in as a friend.
Absolutely.
And you'll be able to take a look at the work. I've had the pleasure of birding with you a couple of times, especially last November when I went to Cleveland. And for those in the Zoom room, Jen is an extraordinary talent when it comes to birding. But can you tell me what kind of birder you are? Because I learned a lot hanging out with you, but what kind of birder are you?
Oh, kind of bird. Well, I'm 5'1". I always wear black shirts and a hat, and I wear baggy pants, and I got my binoculars and my spotting scope wherever I go. I like long distance birding. And the reason I say that, well, I love looking at what's right in front of me close up. I like looking at birds out in the distance. And the reason is it ramps up my skill levels, and it constantly makes me look harder and further away. And a lot of birds you'll miss if you're not looking out. You know, you're looking up is obviously that's the way to go. You always want to look up. But I like looking out too. And I would say that also probably helps me in life too, looking further out with even wider perspective. When I enter the field, I'm pretty intense about it. I love looking for rare birds. I am a rare bird fanatic. But I also thoroughly enjoy watching bird behavior. You know, today I was out with some folks, and we were looking for rare shorebirds landing in grassy strips at an airport. But chimney swifts were flying over like crazy. And great, amazing looks at chimney swifts, eye level, and actually looking down on top of some of them. And to me, every single time you get to observe something or spend time around birds like that is just a moment of awe. I mean, how thankful we should be to be able to witness the birds that we do. I take nothing for granted. Never.
Good. Jim Wright is asking, are you a bird photographer?
I am, but in a different sort of sense. I have a 300 millimeter lens, and I do a lot of photography digiscoping. But you know what? I'm not a hardcore photographer. I would love to be, and maybe later I will be. But right now, I spend so much time scanning for birds with my binoculars and my scope that I don't have as much time with my camera. That's a personal decision, because obviously I could kind of lay off the scope for a little while, pick up the camera more. But by all means, check out my Facebook page. I've got a ton of bird photography up on my page, as well as nature photography as well.
The thing is, it's a choice, isn't it? You either pick up the camera or you pick up your scope. I don't think there's any way around it. You either do one or the other. You're either a wildlife photographer or a birder with the camera.
Yeah, it's a tough choice. You know, I stare online or stare at some of my buddies' cameras, and whew, I want one of those. But I think I'd spend so much time photographing birds that I wouldn't be looking out and up as much. Not as much as I really, really like to right now. So you're right. I'm making that choice. I'm sticking with it for now.
Yeah. You're talking about chimney swifts because in the chat previously, people over in Britain have been talking about common swifts because they're on the way out, heading south to Africa. And I've even seen, I mean, they nest in Spain as well, but I've noticed more coming through. And chimney swift is a species that I can't remember the last time I saw one, actually, because I don't think I was ever in America at the right time during the summer to see them. But they've actually turned up in the UK a few times. They're very rare vagrants. I remember instances when I think one or two may have turned up in Cornwall over the years, but also on the Scilly Isles and up in the islands of Scotland. So it's quite interesting. But some of the birds, because I grew up, birding in Britain, but I saw a lot of American birds. I saw my first and only ever blackpoll warbler in England. I've never seen it since. But I love the idea of rarity finding, as you talk about, because I'm sure in America, and I've seen it in action anyway, you have twitchers, because people often get the two phrases mixed up. They think that, especially in the media in the UK, anyone with a pair of binoculars is a twitcher. And even though there's no disrespect as far as I'm concerned, but there is a big difference. It's like calling a deep sea angler a fly fisherman. I mean, we both catch fish in different ways. But I used to twitch a lot, and then after a while I got a bit bored of it because, you're finding someone else's bird and you're standing in a big crowd waiting for something to turn up. It's a bit sort of not very exciting. You're not actually looking. You're just waiting for someone else to shout something out. So I remember sort of making a conscious decision to search my own rarities. And I remember going to Iceland a few years ago. And in Iceland, they've only got, I think, 276 species. And once you've seen them, you got to be a finder. They call themselves finders. And I love that phrase, finders. And that's what you are. So how do you find rare birds? How do you find a rare bird? Do you have this sixth sense? Do you think to yourself, I'm going to go to my patch and I'm going to find a rare bird? Do you have a sense that you're going to find it, or is it just sheer hard work, just going through each individual?
You ready to talk for the next 5 hours? Here it is. All right. First of all, from loving birds and being so interested in them, and so many years of just watching them, obviously you see the common birds and even the uncommon birds over and over and over and over again. And if you're really paying attention, you ingrain every aspect of that species into your mind at a distance, in flight, different angles of flight, different behaviors. So you become wholesomely connected to understanding those common species that surround you, much like you'd be able to pick a friend or a family member out of a crowd of people at a fair or a concert. So if you spend that sheer amount of attention with those birds that surround you, you're immediately putting yourself in position right off the bat to be able to notice and be a finder. I love that term too, of more uncommon and rare birds. One of the largest things I've noticed, however, is timing. And this is true for folks that find a lot of rare birds as well. When here's a fun word, it's called phenology. It's a PH, phenology, and that's where and when and how all things happen. So when monarchs migrate across Lake Erie from Canada, heading down to Mexico, that's when the first eastern wood peewees typically show up. That's when katydids typically start singing high up in the canopy of the trees. When you're connected to the timing of migratory routes, of where and when rare bird dispersals, such as herons and egrets, start leaving their nesting grounds and are often blown up by tropical storm winds or just south winds, you've just elevated yourself to one of the highest levels already right there of becoming even more aware of what could be. And I am manically addicted to the could be, because I know at all times there could be something that is ready to be found. And I am deliciously in love with being out to be possibly within the path of that thing that will be found next. So you have your understanding of your common and uncommon species. You have your understanding of migration levels, timing of nesting, dispersal, when each rare species could possibly show up. And then you have weather. And that is the double whammy of fun. So when you know that certain birds are on the move and you know what weather patterns they move on, baby, it is time to get outside, because you have put yourself then, that's the triple whammy, because you know you're already starting out with a 10% chance of likelihood of finding something rare simply by knowing your common birds. Think about that, David. If you know your common birds well, you're sitting inside in your home with already a 10% chance of finding a rare bird, even though you're inside your house, because you have knowledge of those common birds. Once you step outside, you've already increased another 5% because you're actually outside. Once you start really looking around, you add another 5% on top of that. So you leave your dang house at 20% chance of seeing something pretty awesome. You add in a deep understanding of that species that you might be looking for, as well as colliding that with a weather pattern, you are in line at least with a 65 to 75% chance at all times of finding a rare bird. It's just how high you look, how long you look, and how distant you look, and how much you work for it. You got to work hard. You can't stop scanning. I know a lot of, so here's the adorable part of birders is that socialites, a lot of them. You get together and people start chatting. It's lovely, right? It's lovely. But if you're out in the field, all right, and your group is kind of talking and chatting, and you've reduced your ability to find birds by 50% immediately off the bat. If you start yammering on and talking about this, and it's adorable, it's good. You need the connection. You gotta, it's friendships and connections. But if you are intent on finding something uncommon and rare, you need to go all in, baby. You need to be aware of the wind changes at any time, west, northwest, at whatever mile per hour, what your percent of chance precipitation is. You need to look at wind maps. You need to look at front patterns. You need to look at barometric pressure. You need to plot and plan your days off of work to align with storms and put yourself in the path for the highest success. And that goes across every single day. Put yourself in the path of highest success every single day. And when it comes to finding rare birds, yes, there is a very specific method for doing it. And if you follow those ingredients, it's going to happen.
I totally agree with you when it comes to people chatting. I remember being on my local patch in Wormwood Scrubs, and it was autumn, and the conditions seemed right. I was with someone who was just jabbering on, and I turned around to him, I said, listen, if you're going to talk to me like you keep on talking, I want to be on my own. Less talking, more birding. And what I also noticed, I don't know if you noticed this too, but I've noticed that sometimes the chatter's on so much that people get into a nature reserve and they're chatting until they get to the hide. And they don't realize that, in fact, you know, birding starts as soon as you step out of your car, or as soon as you step out of your house, actually, you start birding. And I remember once being on the beach in a place called Minsmere, which is in eastern England, in Suffolk. And I was with my mate. We're walking along the beach, and there's lots of people chatting away. And there was a little gull flying at head height. And no one looked up and saw it, apart from me and my mate, because everyone was too busy talking. It was quite fascinating, actually, to notice that. So I always try and encourage people to look at the same time and not rely on someone else to look. All of us have to actually work at that together. What's interesting is someone here asked a really interesting question. Jim Wright, in America, birders are called birders, aren't you? You're not called bird watchers, are you? You're birders, aren't you?
What he was talking about, but birders and bird watchers, you know, here in the States, we do consider ourselves birders, although I'm really been enjoying the term bird watcher. I don't, ooh, somebody just said, you call yourself a bird what? I missed that in the comments.
Okay, I'm back.
There he is.
Sorry about that. This is only in 46.
Bird nerd.
In 46 different in conservation woods. This has only ever happened once before in terms of me being bounced out. So apologies. I know you've been answering the question, Jen. I'm a true professional. But I was just asking, you're called birders in the States, whereas in England, there's lots of different names. And Jim was asking about the name spotter and if I liked being called a bird spotter.
Ooh.
Yeah, I absolutely hate it with a passion. And I don't even like being called a bird watcher, actually. Because
you don't? Why don't you like being called a bird watcher?
Because I find the term bird watcher kind of old fashioned for me, to be honest. It feels a little bit kind of, you know, back in the 50s and 60s, bird spotter, bird lover, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I kind of like birding and birder. And I, for a long time, thought those terms were Americanisms until I realized that Shakespeare used the term birding in one of his plays. But birding in those days was all about shooting. But yeah, I find it a bit more sexy and a bit more kind of modern to be called a birder than a bird watcher.
True. Very true. Birder definitely has, bird watcher does end up having some, I don't know, some kind of bizarre connotations. Oh, David, are you still there?
I'm still here, yes.
Okay, there he is.
Yes. But what we need to do, sorry, before we carry on, can everyone go on mute, please? I think, Dennis, for example, I think you're on live at the moment.
Oh.
Can everyone go on mute? Thanks.
For some reason, I'm becoming a little okay with the term bird watcher. But I prefer birder. Oh, there's Kevin. I use birder when I talk to other birders. And Stephanie, I like birder. We'll stick with birder.
Good, okay. Now, sorry that I get bounced out, but one of the questions I was going to ask you was about Cleveland itself, because I've been to Cleveland, as I said, last November. Superb location for urban birding. Airy Street Cemetery, I loved it there. I felt very excited being there. But I love one of your local patches, which is Wendy Park. I know that you are a massive gull fan. In Britain, gulls, amongst birders, offer up a massive challenge. Some people love them. I can't wait to stick there and decipher what plumages and what species, whereas other people think, I'm not even going to look at them. I mean, you found some really good gulls in Wendy Park. What attraction do gulls hold for you?
I've not even thought about that deeply to be able to properly answer that with any sort of real gusto. But I gotta tell you, gulls are beautiful. They're absolutely gorgeous. You know, when you take a look at an Iceland gull, a glaucous gull, their plumage is just stunning. It is absolutely fascinating, completely overwhelmingly amazing to me that they're able to survive under the conditions that they do survive in. Because in Cleveland, it gets cold, cold, and our north winds pick up, and it can be downright wretched outside. Yet again, it is, I think, most absolutely the chance for a rare gull. And there are a lot of rare gulls. In the winter, you know, you end up losing a lot of your bird diversity to migration for obvious reasons. And gulls do make up actually a bulk of a lot of the birds that are here. We have gulls and waterfowl. But when the lake freezes or freezes quite a bit, we really do turn to gulls as focus, especially for rare birds. And the tantalizing chance that you can find an ivory gull or Ross's gull or slaty-back gull, oh, there, Kevin, Cleveland ivory gull, winter 2021 or winter 20, yes. The chances that you can find a rare gull keep me in the game. This past winter, I finally found, after 12 years of looking intensely, a slaty-back gull, second state record, first record for Cuyahoga County. And that right there, a lot of gulls have sealed the deal. Little gull is one of my top favorite birds of all time. I love little gulls. But finding that slaty-back gull, that was special. That is something I have weathered so many storms for, been out in the most wretched conditions, knowing that that bird will appear. And it did. And it appeared at Wendy Park. And yes, Wendy Park Whiskey Island is extremely special. It's only 22 acres. The park has a large woodlot. And it borders up against a marina, it borders up a giant harbor and the Cuyahoga River, which runs into Lake Erie. And it's on the west side of downtown. It is the ultimate urban birding site. It has everything that you want. It's got rocks and grit and dust and railroad and fence lines and helicopters flying over and trains coming by, people fishing, people probably doing some sort of illegal activity. It is everything that you could want in an urban birding site. Easy access for folks, and the birds come in there thick. I've had over 270 species of birds just at that park.
Incredible. Lenore is asking, how did you celebrate when you found that slaty-backed gull?
I rolled around on the ground and laid there because I was so exhausted and so overjoyed and so overwhelmed and so just, I did it. We did it. Wendy Park did it. So many years of looking through hundreds and hundreds of thousands of gulls. And there was that slaty-back gull. It was way out on the break wall. I spent 45 minutes staring at it till I could confirm it. And then when folks finally showed up, because see, for me, seeing a rare bird, I got a tickle in my throat. If I'm cough a little bit, I am okay. Thank you.
I need one of these.
I do. I got a little coffee. For me, seeing a rare bird is obviously incredible, beyond words. But seeing a rare bird with other people is where it's at. So the fact that that slaty-back gull stayed so that at least a couple dozen other people could see it, that's where it's at.
Just to explain about the slaty-back gull, obviously it's not American. It's what, in Japan, is it? And
yeah,
it's around that way, around Asia, the coast of I suppose China and Japan, and in fact I've seen them. I think I've seen them in Taiwan as well. So basically, it's incredible for one to turn up in that side of the States. In fact, we've had two in the UK. One in Gloucestershire in a rubbish dump.
Ooh, there you go, in a dump.
And I think that very same bird flew into London as well, and it was found somewhere else in London. So it's an incredible find.
It was so delicious. It was so amazing. So much work went into finding that bird. I can't even describe how many years and years of sifting through thousands and thousands of gulls in terrible weather.
Yeah.
So that was a...
Yeah. And Sean, by the way, you're right. I think the first one was found in Raynham, but then another one was found in Gloucestershire. I was going to ask you, I mean, I've also seen you celebrate. I remember when I was in Texas, an Amazon kingfisher showed up, and there was a big twitch because we were in Texas at a bird festival, the Rio Grande Bird Festival, I think it's called.
Yep.
And everyone tipped out there to go and look for this kingfisher that someone found by accident. I remember I've got a picture of you sort of running towards me, fists aloft, screaming to high heaven that you've seen this this bird. Do you let's talk about the big years and stuff you do. Just to explain, big year, it's basically a year list in the UK. It'd be a year list, but can you explain how they work? Because that sort of stuff I think started in America, didn't it? The whole sort of big year.
Yeah, so, you know, you can do a big year anywhere. You can do a big year of birding in your backyard. You can do a big year of birding in your state, in your county, in your city, in the lower 48 states. You can do a big year in all of the U.S. states or North America itself. So you can take a big year to whatever level, but you go by the calendar year. And in a big year, your goal is to see as many species of birds as possible in whatever location you've chosen. So I have done a big year in Cuyahoga County, which is the Cleveland area, 3 times. The first one I did was in 2012. The second one was the next year. So 2 back-to-back big years, 2013. And then in 2017, I ended up doing yet another big year. And it's possible that this year might be materializing for another big year as well.
Really?
Possibly. I love your face right there. Really? Yes, possibly. So 2012, though, was... that was a life-changing year for me. The age that I was at and the things that I was going through, my passions and interests. In 2012, I ended up seeing 270 species of birds just in Cuyahoga County. And that was completely mind-blowing for everyone in the state of Ohio, and particularly for folks in the northern half of Ohio and birders in the Cleveland area. This was just outlandish and completely mind-blowing. Folks, even in the Great Lakes region, were watching this unfold and just mind-blown that this could happen in Ohio in the first place, but also in the Cleveland area. Cleveland has sort of had this sort of unfortunate rap of kind of being a Rust Belt city where nothing really happens and people want to like get out of Cleveland. Well, that's true no more. And a lot of things have changed. Unfortunately, in Cleveland, we have seen, just like many, many, many other places around the world, have seen many a natural crisis. Yes, our fire did burn, or I'm sorry, our fire did burn. There was a burning fire, and it was on our river. So we are nicknamed the Burning River City. But fortunately, from the horrific natural atrocities that did happen, Cleveland has been partly leading the way, among others, in conservation efforts and cleanup, excuse me, and care of our environment. So Cleveland itself kind of started to go through a lagging time in the birding world, whereas other areas in Ohio were starting to ramp up. And so in 2012, part of the reason why I decided to do that big year was to say, hey, folks, let's local patch. Let's bird right here in Cleveland. Look at these hot spots. Look at Wendy Park alone, for goodness sake. Just at Wendy Park, you know, we're getting all these species of birds. I'm going to maximize the time I have and make this a mission, not just to see how many rare birds I can see, but also to help show folks just how stunning county birding is right here around our homes. And David, you know, that's really your mantra as well in life, you know, in saying, look, you know, right outside my window, just look what's right here where I live. And so I jumped on that train and rode that full speed ahead, and haven't looked back. And I love local birding. That's where it's at. It's incredible. So 2012 was huge, 270 species of birds. 2013, I did another big year. So I rolled right into another one because I just couldn't get enough. And I had 265 species of birds. And then in 2017, things came together, and I did break both of those with 271 species of birds just in this county. And we're talking small patches of habitat. We're talking birds downtown, on an urban airport, at Wendy Park, on highly visited beaches, small patches of habitat, and an immense amount of effort.
Incredible. And you also had a year when you listened.
I did. That was last year.
It wasn't actually visual. It was actually birds you've heard. So that's
167 species. I mean,
just heard.
Yeah. So really, yeah, you're right. I have done 4 big years in the county. That's just in the county. 167 species of birds heard. That's a lot of birds.
It is. It's pretty awesome. Okay. We're coming up to the hour, and I was thinking that we could talk more about your engagement work, maybe in the after show bit. But I need to ask you a couple of difficult questions right now. So you're obviously sitting down. The questions are, the first question is, what is your favorite bird?
Long-eared owl.
Really?
When you post those photos of those long-eared owls on your tours, it makes me want to throw my phone off the patio deck. I want to see those long-eared owls so badly. As notice, I got right up in the camera. That means I'm serious.
Well, one day, you never know. One day. And
long-eared owl, though, that is my favorite bird. That is a bird right there. It's an owl that roosts socially. A social owl. It also looks like a cat. It is long, unnecessarily long tufts on its head that look like ears, which makes it amazing. Its eyes are the perfect color. Its body shape is slender and long and ominous looking. And what a bird.
Yeah, they are incredible. And if you could be anywhere in this world, notwithstanding the current pandemic, where would you be right now?
Oof. I don't know. Israel. I would have gone back to Israel for the Champions of the Flyway.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good answer. Zoomers, for the final time, there's only one more meeting, one more in conservation with this season, and that will be on Monday, 10:30 a.m. British Standard Time, which means you guys in America will be sleeping. You should be sleeping anyway. But you could actually then see it again, hopefully afterwards online. And it's going to be with a lady who I've known for a few years now. Her name's Polly Morgan. She's an artist and she makes art using taxidermy, even though she's not really a taxidermist. And her art sells for 6 figures. So I'll be really keen to talk to her.
Oh,
Yeah, she sells to people like Charles Saatchi and all that sort of stuff. So she's a very interesting woman. So we were talking to her on Monday. So listen, this is the point where I think I must apologise for the break in transmission in as much as me dipping out. So
it's okay.
it's really annoying, but sorry about that. But listen, Jen, it's been fantastic being in your company. You tell me that I'm one of your heroes, but you've been my heroine for a long time.
I'm just going to quietly stare at you for a while again.
And
It's
Zoom.
one of my favorite things to do.
Say again?
I said it's one of my favorite things to do. You are indeed one of my heroes, David.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Zoomers,
you need to move to Cleveland.
oh, definitely coming. Zoomers, thank you very much for being here tonight, and or this afternoon or morning. And I hope if we don't see you Monday, that you have a good remainder of the summer. And hopefully we'll come back again in October onwards for some more in conservation works. But it's been a real pleasure having you guys over all this time. Thank you for supporting the In Conservation series. Really grateful for that. I wish you all well. And these are uncertain times, so keep well and look after your families and others. And don't forget to keep looking up, but also look out.